Right, we're going to go to Bethany if we can. Bethany, do you want to ask your first question?
Yeah. So aside from moving to London and staying with friends and like volunteering and stuff, are there, because obviously I'm not really in the position to be kind of doing that, and I know that's kind of what you have to do to break through into the like fashion photography industry. But do you have any advice about any other ways?
This is a really tricky one. I've always said to people that the best way to get into any creative industry, if you're not trying to be a doctor or a lawyer, is to go and make yourself the best intern that people have ever, ever, ever had. And eventually, as long as you're not doing it just for your CV, and to sort of notch up names on a piece of paper, I do think that eventually you do get offered a job. Given your situation with a daughter, and I'm not actually sure about that, Bethany. I think that looking at publications that you like, maybe sending your work around, trying to get to see some of the people. Where would you like your work to go, Bethany? Tell me that. Where would you like it to be?
I don't know. Like I do struggle with this question because I think it's quite hard. Because I think, like, I know a lot of industry kind of work, like, sometimes kind of takes away, like, what you would give. Like, it's not always your own thing. So I think, like, personally at the moment, probably freelance, like, I don't know. I really struggle with that question. That's why I have no idea what.
Well, could we maybe swap it around and ask Tricia where she thinks she'd be?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Again, I don't really know. I did say to the people at ID who really like your work as well, when I was in the art department, I was like, if there's anything that happens up north, you've got to tell Bethany. And they were like, yes, we will. I just want to say about your work, and I don't know how much I wrote it in the comments, but I think that your work has I've seen similar work where people have taken, people in their community or a particular community and documented it. But you give people a dignity, which I really like, and I like the way you tell their stories. It's very human. It's very, I don't know. I'm not really sure on the best outlet. And I mean, what you're talking about is not just showing your work. You're talking about making money through your work. And I know that's difficult. One of your questions was, I have confidence issues and worrying about sending my work to people. What I really want you to understand is that there are a lot of people who think your work is really good. And people at ID did, and I do. I know that Denise does. And unfortunately, until you start to believe in yourself and to believe that we can't all be wrong, then you're going to struggle. You've got to start believing in yourself and think, well, people are telling me it's good. I've got to believe in it. Unfortunately, something like photography, and I've had this conversation with Terry, over the years I've looked back at certain photographers who made it in the early days of ID, and then others who didn't. And I would say to Terry, why didn't this person make it? Because they were really, really good. And he said they just didn't. It's about more than just taking the photographs. You actually have to be able to protect yourself. You have to have a level of confidence. And I want you to start believing in yourself, Bethany. Okay? Can you hear me?
Bethany, do you have more questions? Do you want to follow on that thread?
I think just like you say, like I need to snap out of this little bubble and start getting my work out there. Otherwise, I am going to just be, stuck in this pinnacle center and not.
And do remember, Bethany, do remember that many, many successful people got turned down time after time after time after time. This is not something new. You know, I mean, J.K. Rowling's got, I mean, how many rejections did she get before her book got published? You know, you do have to have a thick skin about things sometimes. And, you know, I'm the worst person to say it because I get really hurt about things. But I do think it's important to, you have to believe in yourself as an artist, you have to believe in yourself as a photographer. And without being cocky and without, you know, thinking you know all the answers, just have a line. You've got a line in your work, and now you've got to have a line in how you get that work to people. And I would say go, you know, approach the people, send it out to the people who are doing publications and who are doing things that you like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. In that vein, I'm going to put Tricia on the spot a bit, but Tricia, would you be up for telling, say, like Lisa, what you liked about hers?
I'm just trying to think where we were. Okay.
About her work.
Lisa, is she there?
Oh, have I just lost her just as we... Okay. And do you mind doing?
No.
Lisa, hello.
But who haven't we spoken to? There's someone we haven't spoken to yet.
Well, we've spoken to Ben, we've spoken to Bethany, we've spoken to Elena,
yeah.
And Lisa and Matthew. So,
okay. Oh, we have.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think in general, can I just make a general comment to everyone?
Yeah.
One of the things that I was struck by, and I don't know if anyone said this to you all, is that what was really interesting about Elena's was that she had such a big body of work there. I mean, you've done such a lot of work, Elena, and it was so very good. Other people sometimes sent just a couple of double-page spreads. And to me, I just felt I wanted a lot more. So, you know, what I would say is that if you're submitting to something like this... What was that?
I think it's in Elena's background.
Okay. If somebody is, you know, if you're submitting to something like this, the more people can see what you've done, the better. And as I say, there were definitely pieces of work that came in, and they were like, I was like, well, where's the rest of it? So make sure you're showing enough of your work. That's what I would say.
Just to jump in on that. This was something that a lot of the curators said, is that you really need to get your noise portfolios full and keep filling them and keep people up to date.
Yeah.
So keep the blogs going. They want to know what you're up to and how you're working, and then we at Noise and other people can then like give you pointers if we see that you're updating stuff and we know that you're keeping a body of work going. Then that's a lot more help. Just to look at one image or a few images. Some of the curators were saying, well, it could just be a fluke. They might just have done one good photo or something like that. So you really do need to show people a much larger body of work.
But also, I agree with Denise that it's if people are interested in your work, they are going to want to see, okay, and what are you doing now? So in a few months' time, they might go to a website and say, oh, well, is there anything new up? So I think that is really important. Can I just be really personal, Eleanor, with your with your piece of work?
Sure.
I thought it was really, really good. Obviously, 'cause you were my sort of like #1 choice. I thought it was really good. But there was one bit that I kind of felt a little uncomfortable, and that was where it became religious. And I know this sounds weird, but I happen to believe in God. That's just where I stand. But there was just a moment as I was turning the pages where I thought it jarred a little bit to me. I'm just, that might not jar with anybody else.
Yeah.
I thought that the theme that you chose, this idea of standing up to, not letting bullies get you down, and it was such a timely, important piece of work. And I think, maybe you'll all understand that what I really go for is something where young contemporary voices are looking at issues of the day. Maybe it's because I was so long in the fashion industry, and life should be, especially at this moment, should be about more than just frocks. I mean, it's wonderful and it's great, and there's incredible talent out there in the fashion industry. But what I'm particularly looking for is the responsibility that we all have within the media. I think I said this right at the beginning that we all have to put other questions in front of people and get people thinking and talking. And I think, that's what I would like to see all of you doing. And also, Ben, I thought that your Asperger's piece was really good, but I wanted to see more. I remember that yours was one that I thought, I want to see more of this. It was a really good idea, but and it gave me a little understanding. I've never known anyone with Asperger's, but I thought it was. I think you said something about it's like being in a room and everyone's speaking a language which you don't understand. There was some sort of a quote about like that, and it just rang really true. But I wanted to see more. Okay.
Yeah. Lisa. Oh, sorry, Elena.
Yeah.
Aren't you all getting bored? Isn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any further questions? I mean, I've got some more from some of you, but is there anything like in response that's like a burning question to your work that you would like to ask?
Well, I have one question, but when I sent it, I think they changed it a bit, so I'm not sure if I can ask it now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my initial question was just because I'm interested in approaching social issues, worthwhile causes. My question was, do you foresee any kind of issue or big problem that our society might face in 20 years' time, or the young generation might face in 20 years' time, and what can we do in the present as a creative industry to minimize the impact of that? So it's more like if you can foresee a certain issue and if you can pin down any things that a creative industry can do to...
For me, I wrote something myself, just for myself today, sitting on the tube. I think it's all about tolerance and diversity, and I think the most scary thing at the moment, I mean, obviously there's, protecting the planet, and as I said, I'm really, really passionate against fracking. I think it's absolutely outrageous what's being, check up, if you don't know what fracking is, check it out. It's it's not a good thing. They're telling us that it's natural gas, but it's pollution.
Yes, I know about that.
Really, really bad. It's really bad. They use tons and tons of water. They make the landscape. They spoil the landscape. They offer people.
The water is infested. Yes.
It's really, really bad. But in terms of what else is going on in the world, I think that we've lost. Our tolerance as a society, and allowing people to have different religious views, different, the whole thing of diversity is just really important. And where you can build bridges with people of different backgrounds, different cultures, that's something that as a young generation with the internet, I think you can all really use. So that's something that I think is incredibly important. Everybody's talking about sort of, becoming more insular, more like putting barriers around. And we don't want to put barriers. We want to break the barriers down. We want to allow people to have different religious views, different sexual orientation, whatever. And as long as you're not harming someone else, who cares?
Yeah. Do you think that communication between people of various backgrounds, either religious, cultural, or political, is somehow being I don't know, suffocated? Because sometimes, to be honest, I feel, maybe it's just me because I come from a different country, from a different cultural background, but sometimes I feel like I can't actually talk about important matters such as, like I said, religion or immigration or education or politics. Somehow it feels that certain people are afraid of approaching such subjects. And because of this, I'm afraid that even in my work, people will be put off from going into it and reading into it, and sometimes it feels almost like censorship, just because some people are so afraid of touching on sensitive subjects. And in my opinion, this is one of the causes that's causing people not to put barriers between themselves, because they're just afraid to talk. I don't know. This is how I see it.
I think, if you're talking about your own creative work, that the most important thing is be true to yourself. You cannot please everybody. There is no question. There is no such thing as everybody liking everything. It just isn't possible.
Yeah.
So you just have to put your own voice, I think, my personal view, is you put your own voice out there. And the people who, maybe you'll change a few opinions. Maybe there'll be some people who will automatically feel a closeness to you. But I think, any creative person has to be true to their inner self. Don't try and do things because it's cool. Don't try and do things because it's trendy or because, you think it's going to make you money. Now, I'm not the best person to say this because we haven't ever followed a purely commercial line. Terry gave up a job years and years ago because, it was very well paid, but it wasn't giving him the creative satisfaction that he needed. And so I'm not and we're not, the wealthiest people on the planet, but we're very happy. And we've been extremely lucky and we've had enough. And I think one of the things that people don't get these days is the word enough. I don't know if this has a resonance with any of you, but it seems to me that everything in the world is to do with making us want more. More money, more possessions, more this, more that. And at some point, there is, I think, an ability to say, I have enough. I feel really lucky. Now, someone said, I discussed it with someone, and they said, well, it's all right for you because you've got it all. And I'm like, well, yeah, but maybe I thought that before as well. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense, but
no, it's just.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, absolutely.